So when I pick a book that I'm going to read, sometimes it's for research, sometimes I've been requested or recommended, sometimes it's just for fun. Now, I try to turn those books into something interesting, entertaining, and useful to viewers. Uh, a lot of books that I read are absolutely terrible to discuss, though. I like the Grimgar series quite a bit. It's very much anime light novel, though. And there's a lot of stereotypes that are spot on accurate. Namely, in this entire book, this is over 200 pages, allegedly. It's not exactly dense formatting. Nothing happens. Like the entire book. Uh, this arguably shouldn't even be its own volume because it's just trying to wrap up stuff from volume 8, which in itself, almost nothing happened, but even less happens in 9. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't like it. I actually quite enjoy the series. I look forward to reading the next volume. There's just almost nothing to discuss. The entire thing can basically be summarized as the main cast of characters escapes the previous fight, and they are thinking about how they've changed and their new role in the party. And there's a very short fight with a wyvern. Problem is, this was a couple days of reading, and this came right after reading Elric for the book club, which in turn was after Dracula's Wars, which is historical. And I'm going back into Elric for more book club next, which means I'll be at 4 novels in a row that are just not good to review. And I'm making this video mostly just to explain that when I read a book, I am thinking about how can I make interesting content about this. And there's a really steep problem with something like Grimgar here, where it's the 9th installment in this series of just a continuous blow-by-blow event of these somewhat pathetic, maybe less so now, adventurers that got isekai'd into a fantasy world and are trying to get by. I haven't done reviews since the first installment, so it's not like I can pull up some playlist and say, oh, go watch all of this. Because even though, yes, I think it's actually a very good fantasy series with characters that you really start to care about, if I just start at like 8, because that's arbitrarily where I was when I started this YouTube channel, I can't really go back and review the first book accurately. And there's no real reason for someone to tune in at the 9th installment, especially when, as I said, there's almost nothing that happens. If you don't already know who the characters are, if you don't already know what they're going through as a party, there's nothing to really analyze or pick apart. You can't really say that there's this great evolution of characters, because realistically, a lot of it is just payoff to things that are already happening, and that makes for a bad review. Similarly, like I don't have a history degree. This is just my second book on Vlad Dracula. It's arguably the second book I've read about the Crusades. That doesn't make me some kind of expert on history at that moment in time. So I really shouldn't be speaking with authority about it. It's just stuff that I'm studying so that when I go to write stories inspired by it, it comes across a bit more authentically. So it's part of what I have to read for my creative ambitions. It kind of leaves a gap in what to fill the YouTube content on. Now, of course, Elric here, it's going to be a great discussion, I think. First Saturday of September, got some guests coming on. It's a fascinating version, like a way to do epic fantasy where it just kind of does it. Which is, it's a really bold strategy in a lot of ways that Michael Moorcock pulls off. Would the average indie author pull it off? Probably not. Probably not, to be honest. But I really shouldn't be making videos about that when I'm going to be having a live stream later, which leaves me just with this gap where I haven't read books recently that make for good content. Like on Audible, which I also do audiobooks, I'm digging through Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I will do that eventually, but it's a long book. It's long in audio format, and after that, I'm going to be listening to Bowling Alone, which is a incredibly dry nonfiction book because it pulls apart a lot of the studies on what is happening to social cohesions, the social capital, the ways that society is changing, where people are becoming more isolated, because I think that is one of the most important things I need to be working into my cyberpunk writing. That does not mean I can make a video about it, though. I can use it in my main projects, which is my writing. There's going to be, like, no good video to make about that, though. So I guess right now what I'm saying is that I'm not always going to have a book review to pick apart and discuss, and you are going to see random videos from me talking about, like, what do I look for in a book to review, current events. Like, I did consider talking about the lawsuit that just hit Rippaverse, but it's a little stupid if you know what's going on with it. So, all that explanation, all that preamble. Unfortunately, Grimgar 9 doesn't really do anything interesting with the genre. It doesn't introduce strange character arcs or discussion. It doesn't surprise you. It gives you exactly what the rest of the series has been delivering, which is why I like the series. It's a good book. Just because there's almost nothing to discuss about it doesn't mean it was unenjoyable. I flew through it. I could barely put the book down. And part of that is because it's a very, very simply written book. There is no complexity whatsoever to the writing. Maybe there was in the original Japanese, but in the translation, it's certainly one of the easiest to read books, which is not a real point in its favor. A lot of people actually accurately hold that against light novels of being just like brain dead slop reading in a lot of ways. But it's enjoyable. The characters are good. You get really attached to the characters, and it is developing things. You are getting flashes of their life before ending up in Grimgar. You are seeing them struggle with not understanding their actual feelings for each other, their relationships to one another. If you don't know anything about Grimgar, it's basically the story of a bunch of people who get isekai that are completely incompetent, essentially, and they have no self-esteem. That's really the big thing, is they're teenagers that don't have self-confidence, and you do get to watch them become literally more competent because they're getting better fighters, they're getting more experience, they're getting renown and respect and learning the skills that they need, and they are slowly realizing that through their efforts that they are becoming respectable. They are succeeding, they are surviving, and they're sticking together, and it's all working somehow through all the effort. And that payoff is very slow, but very steady. That's basically what all of Volume 9 is a lot of recognition of how, the crybaby at the start is suddenly basically the vice commander. She's the most reliable one in the party after Haruhiro. The idiot Yume is actually a very brave and competent frontline fighter. She's actually useful with her bow and arrow, and at the beginning she couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And it's everyone recognizing the effort that the main character, Haruhiro, who is the leader after book 1, is putting into it, and the ways that he has changed in order to protect everyone, lead everyone, and do what, fulfill his responsibility. It's all great. That's why I like the book. That's why I do recommend the series to anyone who enjoys fantasy and is willing to have something a bit more video game feeling, even though it's not actually a video game. But, like I said, there's no real plot arc here. It's payoff to character arcs that are set up in earlier volumes. The fights are very short, and there's kind of a lot of them, because the entire party gets split up, and then they're kind of come back together at the end because they're running away and they get scattered in the fog and stuff happens. And, there's wolves and goblins and fighting off four-armed undead and all this, and giant dragons and bipedal cats. And there's a lot of great fantasy elements in here. But I think you've noticed at this point that I'm stretching for things to discuss about that. And if I wasn't also talking at a meta level about what I'm looking for in reviews, this probably wouldn't be worth a video. So, hopefully, future books will be a bit more interesting. They'll have more things to talk about. I've got quite a few sci-fi cyberpunk books on my shelf waiting to be read. I want to do compare and contrast between them, each other, the previous, the origin of the genre. And, of course, today, current conditions. So, stick around, subscribe if you're looking forward to that. And I hope this gave some food for thought about book reviewing and stuff, and the issues apparently you can run into. Because obviously sometimes I read a book, I think it's garbage. All I can really do is say this book was garbage. But, smash the like, please. Till next time.